Melissa is here with us. She is a class of 98 RPI grad in chemical engineering with a background in science and teaching. Thank you. Your friend, Mr. Gary Alvog, gave me that introduction a while back. So thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to turn it over to you.
How is everybody?
We're doing good. Just to let you know, I have everyone, they're all on mute, and if they have any questions, they're going to send it to me as the host.
Okay. So have you guys heard of science? Can you give me a thumbs up if you've heard of science? Okay. Now, by thumbs up, how many of you like biology? How many of you guys like chemistry? Have you guys ever played with the chemistry set? Okay. And have you ever heard of physics? You guys like physics? Okay, so yeah. So it's funny. There is a very famous scientist called E.O. Wilson, and he describes science kind of like a tree, where physics are the roots that anchor everything to the ground. Chemistry comes up with the trunk. Biology gives you all the branches, and everything we know of, all of our knowledge, are the leaves. So it's this all-encompassing thing. So I have two experiments for us today. I have one with biology. We're going to extract DNA from strawberries. Have you guys heard of DNA? Okay, so your DNA is all of your genes. Your DNA says that you're a human and not a tree. Your DNA says if you're tall or if you're short, and if it says if you have brown eyes or you have blue eyes or what color hair you have. So all of your genes. So we're going to extract DNA out of strawberries. And I'm also going to show you guys how you can blow out a candle using baking soda and vinegar. So I have some biology for you with the DNA, and I have some chemistry for you with baking soda and vinegar. All right. So now, can I share screen? So here's a zoom in of one of your cells. Inside of your cell, there has to be some sort of code, like a computer code, that says do this now or don't do that. And that's your DNA. Your DNA is a set of code inside of your cell that says when you should grow. All right. So now, how many of you whose parents are tall? Who has really tall parents? Okay. And anybody, do you have short parents? Okay. So did you have a tall and a short parent? Okay. So we grow to different heights. So your genes literally say, do I stop growing at this age or do I stop growing at that age? How tall am I going to be? Strawberries are special. Strawberries. Has everybody ever noticed that there's teeny tiny seeds on strawberries? Around each one of those teeny tiny seeds is a teeny tiny cell. So when you look at a strawberry, all those teeny tiny seeds that you see, you have many, many cells in there. And so when you break up a strawberry, you don't just get one or two pieces of DNA. For every strawberry cell, you get 112 pieces of DNA. So that's why strawberries are a really great sample to use for this, because we get out a lot of DNA. Now, here is the fun part with this. Is that my strawberries are frozen together and they're difficult to break. All right. So the fun part with this is that everything we need you can get out of your kitchen, or it comes from the supermarket if you don't have it in your kitchen. So we're going to start off with just a few strawberries, because that's your sample. Now, what do we wash our hands with? We wash our hands with soap. And the reason we wash our hands with soap is that pops cells open. So all the bad bacteria on our hands die when we use soap, because it's popping them open. Well, guess what? We're going to put some soap in here and it's going to pop open the strawberry cells. And also, has anybody ever gone to the movies and you eat popcorn and your lips get chapped? Or you eat so many French fries that or potato chips or something, your lips get chapped? Ooh, that's because salt causes our cells to get dehydrated and then they pop open. So to pop the cells open, we're also going to add some salt. And then cells have these special proteins in them that help keep them together. And guess what meat's made out of? Protein. So we're going to add in some meat tenderizer, and that's going to also help pop open the cells. And I'm going to add in a little bit of water just to get all that dry stuff to dissolve. And this is the fun part. Now we get to squish it all. So now I'm going to take, you really want any heavy object. I have this nice metal thing here. And so I'm going to do this to the side so that I don't get it on my computer. Okay, so you can take a meat mallet or anything in your kitchen and just give the strawberries a squish. And so what you're going to do is you're going to knead it. And can you see this? And am I getting it in the picture? So what you're going to do is as I'm kneading it and I'm squishing it, the salt and the soap and the meat tenderizer is all going to help it all break up. And then you know what I just did? I totally forgot to bring my filter. Can you guys give me 1 second to go run inside? So I did this outside because it's kind of messy and it makes it easier for me if I do it outside. Give me 1 second. I need to go get a coffee filter because what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this drain and then it'll take out the cell guts. So let me go run real quick.
All right, thank you, Melissa. So remember, guys, if you have any questions about this demonstration here, just type it here in the chat. All right, is everyone doing okay so far? What are cell guts? Oh, I'll have to ask her. TJ and Connor. TJ and Connor, how you guys doing? Where are you? Where are you guys? There you are. There you are. That's good.
So now your coffee filter. Coffee filter strains everything.
Hey, Melissa, we have 2 questions in the chat.
Yes.
All right, first
Let's go
one.
to the chat.
Can you use fresh berries?
You can use fresh berries, but it's a little easier to use the frozen one because the cells pop open easier.
Got it. Okay, and the next one is, what are cell guts?
Cell guts are all the membranes and proteins and all of the water and everything that leaks out. Have you ever heard your body's 70% water? So we're actually like really big water balloons with proteins and membranes all kind of floating in there. So what we're doing is all of that protein and all of that membrane and everything that makes up a cell. That's a great question. So we have a membrane and it separates the inside of the cell from the outside. And literally that's how the cell knows what's in and out. Then we also have other membranes in here, and that's the material that does stuff. All right.
Someone asks here, how many cells are in a typical strawberry?
Trillions. So we can't even count.
Wow.
Yeah, trillions upon trillions. And so what we're going to do here is I set up the filter, and it's good to use something that is tall and thin because it's going to help the DNA come out when we get done. So what it's doing now, and I don't know if you can see, let me fill it up again. It's actually filtering by gravity. So because gravity pulls everything towards the earth, we don't have to do anything to it. We just hold it here and it'll squish out and come out the bottom because gravity's pulling it down. So I don't know if you could see it dripping in the glass.
Can you stop sharing your screen? So.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
So if you could see, it's coming out. Gravity is actually pulling it down. So since gravity pulls everything to the earth, we don't have to do anything to make it come out. So by filling it up again and making more of it, giving more of it, gravity will pull more down. Ooh. Now, my biggest problem is that I'm impatient and I always want to squeeze it, and you don't want to do that so it doesn't pop. See. So now, do you see how the liquid is coming through this filter? So even though the filter's holding the solid stuff, there are still holes and pores in the filter. And so stuff can still go through it. And if you notice, after a while, it starts to go to a drip. That's because it's harder for gravity to keep pulling it out as it comes out. So if I add more, it'll speed up again. We'll help gravity out as gravity helps us out. And it's going to make a liar out of me now. There we go.
Couple other questions here in the chat. How much juice do you need?
Just enough so that you can see. Really, the more that we have, the more DNA that's going to be there. And so what's going to happen is I'm actually going to be able to pull the DNA out. When the DNA comes out, I'm actually going to pull it out. It's going to look kind of like snot.
Ooh. And what are the pores?
In every fabric, it's woven together. So they take thread and weave it together. In a factory, they have a very special machine that actually makes this paper. And the paper's made so that you can make coffee. It's a coffee filter. So in the factory, they make it with little tiny holes in it so that the liquid will come through. And that should be about enough.
Do the leaves have DNA?
Yes, everything that's alive has DNA. And so the last thing I'm going to do, have you guys ever gotten a goldfish out of the fair or anything? You know how with goldfish, you can't just put it in the tank, you have to float them or else they get shocked? So what we're going to do is we're going to take really cold alcohol and we're going to put it in here and the cold is going to shock the DNA out. So I put the alcohol in and I haven't figured out a way to get the camera really so that you can see, but you can start seeing bubblies come to the top, and that's the DNA starting to come to the top. So as bubblies form and bubblies form, that's actually the DNA. It's called precipitation. Have you heard precipitation when we're talking about rain? So when something comes out, that's precipitation. When the rain comes out of the sky, precipitation. When the DNA comes out, same thing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my very technical chopstick and I'm going to come in here and that's our DNA. That little gobby that I just plucked off the top of that snotty looking thing is a whole bunch of DNA.
It
Now,
definitely looks like snot.
It definitely looks like snot. Now, here's the wonderful thing. If we took this and stretched it out so it was a thread, we could wrap it all around my property, but you wouldn't be able to see it because it's so thin. The reason you can see this is this thin little piece of DNA gets all wrapped up. And because it's all wrapped up, now you can see it. But if you stretch it out, you're not going to be able to see it again. Now, here's something fun. In every single cell in your body, you have 6 feet of DNA. So what you actually have in every single one cell in your body, if you stretched it out, it would be 6 feet tall. And what happens is by scrunching up and scrunching up and scrunching up, all of those cell guts that we took out, it scrunches the DNA up so it can fit inside your cell.
So I have a bunch of people asking the same question. Why does it look like snot?
Because it's actually protein, and guess what your snot's made out of?
Protein.
Protein. And so what DNA is, nucleic acid is really, it's not quite protein, but it's really close to protein. And then it's got some proteins on it. So yeah, it's similar to snot. Okay. Now here's the thing. If I put this in a little test tube with maybe some saline, we could keep this to do genetic engineering. So they have special proteins that cut up genes and other ones that tape them together. And that's how we can do genetic engineering. So yeah, this is an actual strawberry sample. So let's say we wanted to make a strawberry tree instead of a strawberry bush. We could try to put the genes for this strawberry into a seed pod. And then we could see if maybe the tree would grow strawberries. Now, the other thing I want to show you, have you guys heard of acids and bases? All right. So when you blow out a candle, your breath has carbon dioxide. If we mix together vinegar, which is an acid, and baking soda, that's a base, it makes carbon dioxide. And so I can actually blow out a candle. Let's see if I can do this. And this is another reason why we're outside, is that I have papers all in my house and I don't want to play with candles in the house. So what I'm going to start doing is putting the dry baking soda. You want something tall, so when I stick the candle in, the reason you want something tall is to trap the carbon dioxide so that it doesn't just poof away. So I'm going to put the baking soda in, and when I put the vinegar in, you're going to start seeing it bubble. And that's the carbon dioxide. Ooh, of course it went out on me. Oh, no, no. Ha. So if you see, the moment I put it there, the reason it started to go out was not the wind. It was actually the CO2. So if you notice, it just went out there. That's not the wind that's doing that. That's the carbon dioxide coming out from there. And I can actually, I should be able to do it a couple more times. And of course, and I can't do it a couple more times because I'm not going to get these lit now. So what winds up happening is that, and I got this wet. So yeah, that's not going to wind up happening. The bubbles that you saw were carbon dioxide. That's literally what you breathe out. So just like you can blow out a candle with your breath, you can blow out a candle with the carbon dioxide here. Okay. Does anybody know what we inhale? Oxygen. Have you guys ever heard that? We breathe oxygen? So we breathe oxygen, but let me say that again. Excuse me. We breathe in oxygen, but what we breathe out is carbon dioxide. And guess why we do that? Your cells help protect themselves with something called a buffer. They want to make sure everything in the cell stays the way that it should. And guess what your body uses for a buffer? It actually kind of uses baking soda. So in your body, it keeps balance with the oxygen and carbon dioxide. So every time you breathe in oxygen, you're going to breathe out carbon dioxide. All right. So you can actually do a lot of science experiments with stuff that you have at home. You just have to have proper safety, such as certain things you don't want to do in the house, and then other things you want to make sure that you don't light your entire backyard on fire. All right. Any other questions?
All right. If anyone has any more questions, I have a question for you.
Okay.
People seem very interested in the snot part. Can you eat your snot for protein?
You could eat your snot for protein, but it has bacteria in it, so you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, okay. That's gross anyway. Don't do that, all right? Don't eat your snot. Someone asked, are you a scientist or a teacher?
I am a scientist who became a teacher.
There you go. All right.
Says everybody knows the U.S. Army, right? Have you guys heard of West Point? So I did research there for a while. And so, yeah, I was a researcher for the government, and we searched DNA.
I know we have some Cub Scouts from the local PAC 23 in West Point here with us today, so that's great. And someone asked if you're doing any more, if you can lower your webcam a little bit so we can see that. There you go. Yep. And someone's asked, can you do it at home? I guess I'll say, with your parents, you can do it at home. Make sure you have your parent permission for that. Whoa, oh, there's a lot of questions come in. How does the baking soda with vinegar make carbon dioxide?
What happens is it pulls hydrogen off of water. And so when you mix the baking soda and the vinegar pulls off the hydrogen and releases the carbon dioxide.
Very cool. How do the seeds get to the strawberry?
The seeds grow the strawberry. So what winds up happening is that as the strawberry is growing as a plant in the ground, as it's making the strawberry, the seeds are being tacked in. So it kind of grows the strawberry around the seeds.
Okay. I have another question here. Why did you want to become a teacher?
I was doing science, and I started teaching while I was doing science. I was making medicines. I was doing medicines for cancer patients, and I started teaching, and I found I like to teach people.
All right, that's good. Could you genetically engineer a giant strawberry at home?
You could genetically engineer a giant strawberry, but it would be hard at home because you need to have the lab supplies. I have a student, we're really trying hard to figure out how to genetically engineer a money tree.
Oh, what's that? What is that?
We just haven't figured out how to get money genes.
Okay.
So that's if any of you have any ideas, we'll take them. We'll go into business.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions for our guest today? All right. It looks like that's it. I have one more question for you. Are you involved in scouting at all, or have been in the past?
Sort of. My older brother was from Cub Scouts, and so I was the little sister that hung out there.
Okay, great.
So that was my big scout involvement.
I guess this is the actual last question. Do you have any advice for our scouts here today on if maybe they want to get into the science field or anything else?
Try to experiment. If you like science, try to think of what you want to study and why it might be fun to study.
All right. Thank you so much. Everyone, please give Melissa a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, guys. And before we get going, just remember, we'll see you all tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. for opening. And just let you know, tomorrow our 11 a.m. live demo, I am going on the road. I'm going to a firehouse, and we're going to show you guys a fire truck and an ambulance and things like that with one of our merit badge counselors at the TJ and Connor. I did a song already. Oh, I did a cheer. But we're going to be doing that tomorrow for 11 a.m. And then also we have a very special panel. We're going to have international scouts coming on at 3 p.m. To talk about their experience in their home countries with scouting. So you'll be able to ask them questions about what it's like in their home countries and what it's like in scouting. So far, we have scouts from Palestine and Brazil that's going to be joining us tomorrow. So thank you again, Melissa.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. Be well.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. See you later.
Very welcome. Bye.
Bye.